Okay.
Okay. Welcome, Kip, to Lucknow.
Thank you. Thank you. It's nice to be in Lucknow today.
Does it look like being in Lucknow?
Yes. As I get to the hotel, the hotel looks pretty much like any other hotel in the world.
Yeah.
Why don't I introduce you?
Me?
Hi, Conversations with Kip. I'm sitting with my good friend Rakesh Kant in Lucknow, India today. And Rakesh agreed to sit down and talk with me. We have calculated today that we've been working together on and off on different problems for 17 years, which is a while.
Which is a while.
So Rakesh, why would I want to introduce you? Why would I want to interview you on Conversations with Kip?
Why?
Yeah. What do you know that would be relevant for Conversations with Kip?
Because the passion that you have for this problem that we are working on, that before 17 years, Rick and Doug worked for 30 years.
Yes.
And then after, and some overlap time with Rick and Doug, we've been working for 17 years. And we hope that this problem gets solved sometime. Sometime. That's why.
Yes. There are certain problems that people don't work on much anymore. We hope someday this is a problem like that because it's been solved.
Yep. I hope so. It just I believe that it can be solved.
Yeah.
And it's larger than just the general ledger problem.
Yeah.
It's the problem that goes all the way into the product systems on one end, and it goes all the way into the back office functions the other way.
Okay, so Rakesh has worked in financial services. He's been in consulting, done a lot of IT development. He's a great developer, and so he has kind of that perspective about how. So that's an interesting. You went to, I've been focused on most of my videos around the financial systems, the finance piece, closer to the accounting piece. So why do you say it goes outside of that problem?
Yeah, because the financial systems wouldn't be in place if we don't have product systems. If we don't have product systems, we would not have the true business events that we need to account for.
Right.
So it starts from the product systems. Now, all the product systems, no matter how many they are across how many functions and industries they are, ultimately all of them resolve to standard general ledger type of reporting.
Yes.
So that means that there is some standardization that is occurring from the product system all the way through the general ledger. But then it explodes from there. Once you have a general ledger, then you have some supporting information that needs to be combined with the general ledger, and then downstream functions happen. So we are square in the middle of the problem set where the left-hand side is too big to solve, the right-hand side is too big to solve, and thus far the middle is too big to solve as well. So the problem is huge, but I believe it can be solved. I think the reason I probably didn't explain, I left my industry job and I started the company in Lucknow is because I wanted to have A, the free time to think about the problem, and B, if I wouldn't have believed that this problem could be solved, then I wouldn't have taken this step. I think the problem could be solved. And the last is this problem requires different DNA, and we probably talked about what kind of skill set does it take to solve the problem. In a traditional constrained environment, you don't get that freedom to do the kind of experiments that you want to do, and therefore this environment is allowing me to experiment every day. Whatever direction the experiments lead us, we'll go there. We're not constrained by that we have to meet this quarterly target, or we have to finish this product, or we have to have quarterly exercises, and the constraints that typical corporate environment provides and inhibits this kind of innovation.
Yes.
Is what I'm hoping.
So an individual just last week in Bangalore said, focus in some of our businesses, our industries, on efficiency for everyone. He said, you know what, to be honest with you, there's a certain level of laziness that should be encouraged in business, because lazy people think. They take time and they think, and they think through problems further than when you're rushing around trying to do stuff all the time, and that's a little bit what you're talking about.
Yeah,
there is you've got to be thinking about this problem differently.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of say it slightly differently. If we've taken a lot of time to solve this problem, that's probably not because that we were not capable enough to solve that problem at that time.
Yeah.
We were all capable, but it's the speed at which the corporations work is what had inhibited us from getting to the point where we have something, because we needed corporations to be part and parcel of the equation before we could kind of create something.
Yes.
Now if we can create something that works outside the construct of a company, then now we have something that we can go take and say, do you want this or not? And if you don't want it, your competitor is going to have it. And if your competitor is going to have it, he's going to be better off
Yes.
than you.
Yes.
We need to get to that point. I think we will.
Okay. Okay, so let's talk about why is this problem unique? I mean, one thing that keeps coming back to my mind is this idea of, I hear people sometimes talking about microservices, and I've always had a difficult time understanding in this particular analytical space, what is micro about needing to accumulate 1 billion records? There's really nothing, in certain kinds of reporting processes, you're accumulating huge amounts of data, and there's nothing micro about that.
Yeah, so I'll explain it in the human context, and I'll go back to the technical. The human context is a human mind at a time can only understand things at a micro level. If you as a human being looking at a piece of information, unless it is broken down into bite-sized pieces, you can't throw 1 billion row at a human and say, make sense of it.
What does this mean?
What does this mean? It doesn't make sense. So in a human context, the microservice means relevant information in bite-sized pieces that can be produced quickly.
Yep.
And that's where our systems struggle today. It's a balance between, if you have too much information, I can't produce the bite-sized pieces for human fast enough. And if you pre-create those bite-sized pieces up front, then you don't have all the questions that the human mind can think of. So we need to strike a balance between that we have the huge volumes available, but then we can produce answers in bite-sized human pieces.
In a timely way.
In a timely way.
Because people don't wait forever for things to come
They
out.
press the button and they want the answer.
Yeah.
No matter how much crunching you have to apply in order to produce the answer. So traditionally the systems have been balancing. I will create 10 answers, which I'll create up front, and I'm going to show those 10 answers, and people will click and they'll see. What if they ask for the 11th answer? What if they ask for the 15th answer? Oh, I need to go calculate. That's the problem.
And that was one of my discussions last week, was about, even if you give them the answer, quite often the next question is why. And the why is a new question, which you probably hadn't anticipated and built the system to give the why. And so that's where our systems begin to fail.
And if we are successful at this, that bridge is going to close. We don't have to worry about, no matter how much business events we have. We just need to worry about what questions we want and how the intermediate plumbing that we're creating can answer those questions in the human reaction time frame.
Yeah.
And if we can do that, then all the problems that we have today, whether it is, when I look at the application of this, the software that we're kind of thinking about building, we look at credit card processing, the product system, credit card processing. The transactions are coming at a fast pace,
yes.
Right?
Yep.
Before they even reach general ledger, people have a lot of reporting requirements at that huge volume.
Yep.
What is my credit card balance?
Yep.
What is my
fees,
statement for the month?
Yep.
All of those problems, if the underlying infrastructure and the thought process is consistent, that is no different than processing general ledger. That is no different than. So if we can build a core that can be applied to any sort of problems, high volume problems that we have.
So what do you think's the hardest part of this problem that we haven't yet solved? What's the most difficult piece of this we still have outstanding?
I think my take is it's the human nature of companies and the business processes that they have already in place to adapt the new way of thinking, the new way of working is going to be the problem. Mm-hmm. We will build a system. Technically, I have no doubt the system will be there. The challenge would be to go and offer it to Citibank, and the CFO at the Citibank is going to say, but we do this thing today this way.
Yes.
How am I going to train all the people that do things this way into a new way?
Yes.
That's going to be the problem. Technically, I would say the challenge would be the operational characteristics of our system, because it's going to handle large volumes, because it needs to have very well-defined cuts of data, and we can't afford to lose even a transaction.
I asked somebody last week, I said, so how patient would you have? How patient would you be with your bank if they, lost a transaction or two? With your search engine, somehow you detect that they dropped a URL on the first screen that they gave you. How upset are you about that? You probably wouldn't even notice. Do you notice if they drop a transaction? You'll notice in your banking system if they drop a transaction, because we don't stand for that.
No, right, exactly. So that's the technical. I wouldn't say a difficult problem that we can't solve for. But it's something. But it's something that is going to be the real challenge to solve for. Good. Because Tata had the same experience. Mm-hmm. I had the same experience. At US Bank, it was difficult to keep Spark systems alive, well functioning, running 24/7.
Yes.
Tata had the same problem, where it was not easy to avoid Spark systems come down, and then the real problem was, once you need to restart it, how do you restart and from where do you restart? You don't want to process everything, and that's the mainframe stability is what everybody's looking for in these systems, and to create that stability is going to take a little bit of engineering.
Okay, no, that makes sense. It's not that it's new invention, because our systems do it today. It's that we haven't, in inventing this new capacity, using this capacity effectively, if we have to build in that same sort of resilience for this new capacity, which we haven't been doing for a few years now.
Yeah, I mean, we did the run today, right? The very first question that we wanted to know was how many journals came in.
Yes.
What were those, and how many IUE picked up, and how many gap reclass picked up? Those are the normal questions that finance is going to ask.
Yep.
Every time the run is going to finish, they're going to be asking those kinds of questions. How do we provide that? And how do we, if the process breaks down at step number 3, how do we make sure nothing gets dropped, or we have still the integrity of the system intact?
Okay.
Those are
good. So we've dealt with that, but let's go back to your first point about what's the harder part of this, which I would say is the bigger migration path. So what does that look like? How do we attack that piece of this problem, which is a significant problem? Unlike so many of the internet startups that have become these huge corporations, right? They were dealing with a green field. It was brand new land, virgin land, that they could build whatever they wanted on top of it. All of this stuff we're talking about, it's existing infrastructure. And things are organized, these systems they're basically the embodiment of people's thinking, because we automated people processes to make them. And so these systems today represent hundreds of millions of even billions of people if you had to do it manually. How do we go shift that?
Yeah, so I'll take some parallels from the history. I mean, remember, we had a population of about 2 billion at the turn of 18th century to 19th century, and everybody was traveling horse buggies, and cars were starting to come, right?
Yeah.
But everybody started shifting to the new modes of transportation, the engines, the cars, the planes. It didn't happen overnight, but it did happen. Now, what was the driver behind that? My view is the driver behind it, that was the efficiency. The people who tried that out and the efficiency that it provided to them gravitated them to say, no, it's better to travel by train than by horses, because I can travel faster.
Yep.
In the beginning, it was safety issues, and it was so the transformational change will always challenge people, The only way we can pull through that is if we have
Offer
quantum leap benefits.
Yeah.
And if we can, then it will be easy. So that's one historical example. The other one is the user interface. It means everybody thinks cloud is a very difficult transition. It has lots of inputs and how much size of the machine you need, what size of this. Cloud is a difficult concept for everybody to grasp. But even in spite of it being a difficult concept, if you dumb down the interface or the experience to a human adoption level, then it starts becoming easy. So we need to bring down the complexity of financial systems that we are kind of thinking about building to the level where an average finance person can understand what we are talking about, rather than them needing to understand the complexity of reclassification, the complexity of all of those things in between. They don't need to understand that.
So I had, continuing here, after the storage is full.
Yeah.
Technology.
You should explain what happened.
No, I don't.
No, just volume. We're talking about big volumes.
Big volumes of data. Small volumes of video on my iPad filled it up. So I said to somebody last week, or somebody commented back to me last week, he found this concept of, I think at the heart of what will create this efficiency is a different metaphor. When we went from the traditional manufacturing production lines to just-in-time inventory systems, it reduced the cost of manufacturing dramatically because we didn't have to manage all of the intermediary storage or intermediate materials. In finance processes, balances are the inventory. Because every time we make a balance, you've got to nurture the balance, you've got to reconcile the balance, it's got to be right. All of those things become, and if we can start to take that cost out of the system and produce those balances just in time, then we start to take cost out of the
finance process. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. That is the goal.
That's the goal.
That's the goal.
So, and we're in Lucknow today, working on that goal.
We are indeed. Lucknow is wonderful.
It's been good to me so far. Had a wonderful lunch. Enjoyed dessert. It's been a great time. Good meeting with Rakesh and all of his team. So
thank you, Kip. It was a pleasure. I was pleasantly surprised when he said, I'm going to be coming to Lucknow.
You invited me. You invited me.
I had invited you, but
a few years ago you invited me.
I did. Yes. But I was surprised because I was not expecting it.
Yeah.
I was in Delhi, and then when you said, why not?
Yes.
Why not?
No, I'm glad.
Thank you for coming. It was a pleasure.
Thanks.
Yep. Appreciate it.